Thank you, John, and thank you so much for allowing me to speak tonight. Now, as a near-death experiencer, how many have had the experience, I suspect? Wow. Okay, so you know that we know each other already, but the rest of the room probably doesn't know. What I want to say is, it's great to see you all again. At the end, you'll find out why I'm saying this, but it really is. We really do know each other from another time, another place. And we agreed a long time ago to be here together tonight. So it's no coincidence that we're all here. Now, I'd like to give you a little background about who I am and where I'm coming from. I'm your girl next door. I'm one of 6 children. My dad was in the Air Force. I'm an Air Force brat. I was in for over 20 years with him. And we grew up basically in Brooklyn, New York. So I say coffee, and a little funny accent. But I'm the third of 6, and then there's twins right after me, and then another one who they thought was going to be triplets, but she turned out to be one big baby. World War II, my dad was a pilot, and that whole thing. In our family, we're all very close. We still are. My dad's passed. My mom's still around. But in our family, we got to travel a lot. And one of the times my father got stationed somewhere that we could go with him was to France. And it was 1960. We were all stationed. My dad got stationed in France, and I went with him with my siblings. Because there were 8 of us, they couldn't house us on base. And because my dad was base ops officer, we were lucky enough to live off a base in a spectacular French chateau. And I don't know, you can't see it right now, but if you look, you can see the house. It had 16 feet ceilings. It was huge. It was on 10 acres. It's called the Gentleman's Farm. It was right off a base. Well, the good news was the house was spectacular. The bad news was that the winter vacation of 1963, when we came home from Italy after driving all night because we couldn't find a place to stop for the evening, it had just been recorded the coldest night in history in France that night. We get home, there was an ice storm before we had gotten home, and there was no electric. The pipes had frozen. My mother thought that, wow, the floors are really clean. No, it was, the floors had ice on them. So we had no electric. And then the person who was supposed to bring the coal for our furnace to heat the house, it was a holiday, never showed. So the house was stone cold. It took my dad 4 days to defrost the house, which had walls that were this thick. We get in at 3 in the morning. And it's really cold, and my dad just goes, look, I'm exhausted, just go to bed, because we're all crying, it's cold, we don't want to, he goes, just go to sleep. So I get into a bed that's icy, icy, icy cold. And I'm really skinny little thing. And it is freezing. I don't know if it's colder out or in the bed, because now all the covers are freezing. I started to, when we used to go skating, and get really cold, you start losing feeling, it starts tingling, and then you lose feeling. Well, I started getting those feelings, and my fingers are starting to get numb, and my toes are getting numb, and then it's all starting to creep up, and then I get completely numb in my bed. Next thing I know, I am now floating above my body. And I didn't understand what was going on because I'm laying in bed, yet I'm above my body. And I kept getting higher in the room, and then I noticed my sisters and I were sharing a room, so I noticed my sisters are sleeping, or trying to sleep, or they're moving, or whatever. They're in their beds, and I'm getting higher and higher in the room, and I now am going through the ceiling, and through the attic, which is directly above us, and through the wooden rafters, and it was such a strange feeling because I actually felt what it was like to go through wooden rafters. And I still didn't understand what was going on. And then I started raising above the house, and then I'm going up into the atmosphere, and when that cold air hit me, it was really crisp and crackly. I go, what is going on here? And I'm was trying to figure it out. And then all of a sudden I didn't feel alone, and it wasn't so scary, because at first it was scary, what's happening, and I felt a peace. And as I felt a peace, I didn't see the tunnel. A lot of people talk about a tunnel, but I felt I was going into the atmosphere, out into space, and I wasn't alone. And it was dark because it was night, I guess, but it was dark, it was crisp, and I wasn't alone. And I started feeling really good. As I'm traveling, I'm having a life review. I go, this is really weird. It sounds like a movie. It was, but it wasn't. It was, I'm actually reviewing my actual life. It was 12 years. But I remember things from when before I had words. I remember being in my crib as an infant, and I must have been only a day or two old, and watching little dust particles floating around, and feeling without words that I'm loved and I'm part of something really big. And I remember that feeling. It felt so good. I knew I wasn't alone. And then I was reviewing other things that happened in my life, and I was reviewing them from my point of view, my vantage point, but also I was feeling what the other person or animal or whatever it was, how they reacted and felt to my actions, which was really different. So now I'm feeling how it made me feel, but I also understood how it made them feel. And hold that thought for later too, because that's really powerful. That's a good take-home one. As I'm doing my life review, I'm noticing pixelated light. It was off in the corner somewhere. It was off way over there. And it was attracting me. So I'm starting to, what is that? What is that? And as I get closer and moved closer and closer to it, it was getting brighter and more animated. Then I noticed out of the light that there was a being, a light being. It wasn't human. It was someone was coming at me. I sensed it was a soul, a spirit. Someone was coming at me. Now, when we have a near-death experience, and you can have, everybody in this room can have had one. When you're trying to explain the near-death experience, each person, each of us would say a totally different thing. We're going to filter it through our life, our experiences, everything that we can imagine and think of. So each one's going to sound different. We have to find a word to describe something that there is no verbiage for. We have to find a way to express something that it's impossible to express, because we don't have dimensions. We don't have vibrations. We don't have resonations. We don't have codes that we're picking up in this experience. Our mind doesn't work that way. Our physical body doesn't process that way. Our human experience has nothing for this. So it's sort of like a slot machine where you start pulling the lever and it's processing and processing, and then it'll hit a number and it'll hit something else and it'll hit something else. So when I'm telling you my story, or others are telling you, that's what we're trying to do. Put verbiage to something that's impossible to describe. So really what I'm saying is, please bear with me when I go on with the rest of my story. It's going to be through my filters and how I can filter it and remember it and tell you. So now I'm back in the light, I'm seeing this light, and someone's coming forward. It's my grandfather. And my grandfather is beautiful, and he's happy to see me, and I'm thrilled to see him. And it's great to be there and catch up with each other, and though you don't talk, you understand, there's an exchange of everything you can imagine, and he's so thrilled to be with me, and again, I missed him. Well, the strange thing is, my grandfather died 5 years before I was born, so how could I miss him? It makes you wonder. Yet I did. And he was telling me things about my mother and the family, and telling me, you inherited my artistic talents, and I love birds. And he said, oh, I loved birds, I loved animals, and it was just an exchange of, and it wasn't that he was saying it, it was, my heart knew it. My heart understood this. And it understands even more, and if I can relax enough and think about it, I'll even remember more things that he said to me, or that he downloaded into me. So now there's my grandfather, and we're just so caught up with it, I didn't notice what was going on. And what was going on was exactly like this. As I was looking around, there were other luminaries, there were other beings, there were other souls. And it was a welcome home party for me. And it wasn't where someone's going, oh, look what she's wearing, or, you know, she always gets the party. It was really a genuine love fest. It was just hearts opening to other hearts, and we're just so happy to see each other again. And I do have to tell you, I'm really happy to see each and every one of you again. And this is what it felt like. You may not be feeling what I'm feeling, but it feels so good. And again, we're exchanging download. Can anyone else have a better word for that? But I understood each person. I understood their humanness, what they've experienced here. I understood them as a spirit. I understood their essence. We each have unique thumbprints, right? There's supposed to be no two alike. I think that's how our souls are, though we're all part of something. You know, someone said a drop of water in the ocean, and the ocean's the, you know, consciousness, and we're each a drop. But we really are totally unique, and your personality is totally unique to you. And it probably always will be, that essence. When you close your eyes and you know who you are, I believe that's who we really are. So I would recognize you blindfolded better than I would with, you know, seeing who you are. Because I recognize your aura, the aura, you give off like a vibration, a frequency. That's it, that's unique to you. So like no two snowflakes, no two you are like. And that's the beauty of it, because I can love each one of you for who you are, your specialness, who you are. And it's really a beautiful thing. I mean, it's just, I just look around. I love all of you. Getting back to the story. So now there's this welcome home party, and it feels so good, and yet I'm expanding, and we're all expanding. Okay, so we're expanding isn't, well, okay. The heart is just growing in happiness and joy and love. Well, next, I notice I'm in now. There's no rooms, and it's not like heaven is paved in gold. You know, if you want it, maybe it is for you, but it wasn't for me. But there's an order to it, even though there's no time. There's no, there's no time. Oh, there's the sound is beautiful. There is sound there, but it's not like we hear sound here. This is pixelated. Everything that we see in front of us, you know, you've heard in A Course in Miracles, it's an illusion and everything. The best way I can describe it, this is pixelated. So you have a pixel, a space, a pixel, a space, a pixel, a space in our reality. In between each pixel is the space. In between the space is a lot going on. There's radio frequencies, there's energy, there's codes, there's just so many things that happen in between the space. Now we think that this is real, but it really is maybe not quite as real as on the other side, because the other side, there absolutely are no pixels. There's no space. So the colors that we process there are saturated. They are spectacular. Our minds would probably melt or explode to understand the colors there. Same with sound. And it's different than the sound here. The sound here is filtered. It's filtered because we couldn't understand it. Okay, who's going around? So the sound is really, is it? No, I'm not.
Press the left button until it turns on. I really, so it gets LEDs.
I I can talk. I have a big voice. I'm one of 6 kids. I know how to talk. I don't think it's working anymore. Okay, so this is a perfect example, right? Anyway, the sound there isn't just sound. It isn't just sound. It's really.
Test.
So the sound is very different than what we hear. And there's no time, and I apologize for going back and forth. I'm just trying to put this on this. Okay, so there's no time. The sound is different. The color is different. Everything is different there, and yet it isn't. Doesn't make any sense, but it is. So now I'm moving through a room, which was where I was getting to, but it isn't a room. But it had a sense of, if you had to put it into words, it was a chamber. And in the chamber were these columns, or what do you call it, daises. These, judges' chambers like, and there were these luminary beings, and I call them the keepers of knowledge or the keepers of light, because they were like keepers of light. These entities had all the answers to every question that you can ever have. Now, in my book I write, they gave me all the answers. And lately no, they didn't give me all the answers. They reminded me that I have all the answers. And guess what, guys? You have all the answers too. All the answers to how the universe was created. All the answers to who you really are. What your life is going to be, just all the answers to everything that's ever been. Are there UFOs? Are there other planets? Is there life? Was there Atlantis? Is there Luminaria? What about all the Buddha, Krishna? We have encoded, if you will, we have in our I call it the heart, but it's our souls, our beings. We have all the answers to everything. We've just forgotten. And not so much forgotten, we've covered them over. We've covered them over with belief systems that we were taught since when we were really little. This is what you believe in. Now I'm Italian, so I have like a whole issue with that. You have to talk with your hands, and you have to be loud, and then my mother was Catholic, my father was Presbyterian, so I have that whole thing going on. And since I was little, I was told you have to believe this, you have to believe that, and none of it made a whole lot of sense. All I know is each time I had to believe what they wanted me to believe, it was another filter that was put on top of another filter on another. Oh, you're a girl. Girls show up like this in life, you're an American. Americans are this way. So by the time we get to 4 or 5, you've got a lot of filters on you, and you really don't remember. I think little guys remember a lot more than we do. I think their filters are not quite developed yet. They're pretty awesome. So these luminaries gave me, back to luminaries, all the answers to everything. And I go, this is great, but there's no way as a human being we could ever understand this, because again, our minds would just explode. There are things that we can't explain because we don't even know it exists, and we can't possibly know it exists because it won't ever make sense to us in our linear world. I did say, I said, make a special note, I said, okay, to self, anything is possible. And I did take that home with me. And I know now, anything is possible. Anything is possible. If you can think it, it's possible. If you can't think it, it's possible. It's probably happening. But it really has helped me in my life. It helps me a lot because I have a very open mind, and it's just amazing. But I did make a note, anything is possible, okay. So the luminaries also, I got to share my life with them, and that was an interesting thing, and then they explained a lot why things happened. And I was supposed to speak with Ellie over at her group, and she had asked me they interview before you do this, make sure you pass the test. So I got invited, which means I passed her test. But she said something really interesting. She said, I have a question for you. What were 3 questions that you had for the luminaries? You said you asked them questions. Now in the book I didn't put down my questions. And I thought about it, and I remembered the 3 questions. And one was, why didn't I not feel real as a child? I was just, Mom, this isn't real. Mom, this isn't real. Mom, this isn't real. I'm just driving her crazy. I said, this isn't real. He's a little kid. She goes, of course this is real. Of course this is real. Now I understand why. Because I was telling you about the pixels. I knew this is not real as a child, which was really interesting. The second one was, when I used to get sick, I loved having really high fevers because I called it the big little. I would look at the ceiling, there were little holes punched in the top, like these things here, and it would confuse me because part of me was expanding out to the universe and beyond, out to space. So that would be looking through a telescope. So if you look at, you can go to infinity and beyond. The other part of me at the exact same time was microscope, with a microscope looking inside and expanding to infinity and beyond. It doesn't make any sense, and it's hard to understand that, but that was what happens when I got really high fevers. I called it big, little. But what was happening, internally and externally, I was expanding to infinity and beyond. They said yes to that. I said, what do you mean yes? They go, yes, yes. That is, that explains the cosmic consciousness. That's how, and it's love, and it was love. It's love. Expanding out and in at the same time, which is really amazing. And the third one, I don't remember, but maybe I'll remember later, maybe not. But it was really cool stuff that they were able to explain this, and I thought, my mom thought that I was, it was my imagination. It wasn't, it might be, and for my mom it's my imagination, but it isn't my imagination. And I believe a lot of you know what I'm talking about. Now I'm finished up with the Keepers of the Light, the knowledge, and they gave me all this information. They also told me how how my life plays out. And by the way, I met my son, who's now 27. We agreed when I was over there that he would be my son. We picked out a father for him and everything, and I have met the man. And he has a mission also, and in order for him to complete his mission, I have to be his mother and raised in a certain way, and that has been, so far, we're doing really good on that. And I thought that would be a little, what is that called, fun fact?
Wow.
Okay, moving on. Now there's the luminaries, the Keepers of Light. Next one, I expanded even further. In that expansion, I experienced great luminaries who had come to Earth and other places, who knows where. But so we'll call them Krishna, Buddha, the Dalai Lama, people who came here, who have been here, who are lights unto the world, who came here to remind us who we are, to remind us, why are you hurting each other? We're all one. You're hurting yourself and you hurt everybody else. To remind us about love and remind us, like I said, who we really are. Well, this is important because when I came back and I'd go to Sunday school and they would say, well, Jesus is the only way, and though I love Jesus, I go, no, there's others. I didn't know who they were until I was much older, and I would read about other religions because I was fascinated. I said, this can't be all there is. We're not all condemned if we don't believe exactly as you say, and that doesn't ever sat with me. It just wasn't right, and I knew it from that experience. So as I got older, and I said, oh yeah, I met him. I know who that is. And that's a great source of upset for my sister, who is a reborn Christian, by the way. I'm not allowed to say this. If you talk to Lucy, don't tell her I told you this part. She gets very upset about that because Jesus really is her only way. Which brings me to the next thing. I expanded even further. And in that expansion, I did have a Christ, I call it the Christ consciousness experience. That probably single-handedly was the most profound part of this whole near-death thing. Because and it's not because I was raised Christian. I know, people, oh, you were raised Christian, of course, or, that's where your mind would go. It wasn't that way. It was something totally different, where I actually understood Christ as a human being. 2 nights ago, I heard Jeff Olson. Have any of you heard Jeff talk? Can you raise your hand if you heard him talk? Okay, Jeff's a pretty phenomenal speaker. And he said something, this is why I love to hear different stories told, because you always get something from each one. Well, this was my take home for Jeff. This was the reason why I even came to California, to hear Jeff say this one sentence. In his experience, in his near death, he woke up in the middle of the night and there was a corridor he was in. He knew he was dreaming, but he wasn't. He was actually experiencing this. And at the end of the corridor was a crib, and in the crib was his son who had just passed. And he said he can't explain it, but he picked up his son, and he felt his breath, and he saw his eyelashes, and he felt his little heartbeat against him. And it was more real, unpixelated, than anything that he's ever felt before or after that moment. And then for him it was, then he felt embraced. He was embracing his son. He felt embraced by Christ. For me, there wasn't a bassinet with a child in it, but I felt, I didn't understand this Christ realization thing. I actually said, I don't understand it. The whole experience was, souls and spirits, and you couldn't put it into words. This I could put into words. It was solid. He was rock solid. He was a man. And I really understood everything about Christ. And it was just like Jeff said about his son. It was the most loving, profound moment that I have ever experienced, to be in his presence. And that, to me, it was just the whole thing. Again, when I came back and I would go to Sunday school, and I'd really get thrown out of a lot of classes because they'd say, well, Christ said this, and I go, he didn't say that. He wasn't that way. You don't know him. But in an instant, I knew him. And I actually, I don't understand how this works, but I lived when he lived 2,000 years ago. I could tell you what we ate. I could tell you what we wore and where we went. I don't know how. I suspect a lot of you may have, I don't know, I can't talk for you, I can only talk for me, but I do know that that was my experience, and that was really, really, really amazing. Right after that, where I didn't want to leave, all of a sudden, like in Star Wars, when they go to, okay, we got to get out of Dodge City, and they push it into, warp speed, and everything gets blurry, and it literally was getting blurry. Everything was like blurring, and the Hubble pictures where you go out. Okay, so I went really, really fast. I imploded, exploded, I don't know. I just became huge, and all of a sudden it came to a stop, and it was just like, and it was silent, and it was every sound ever imaginable, and it was the most phenomenal. That was even that one. Another Christ one was that this was really amazing, because in this moment was a total God realization. Connected to everything. We are all connected. We are the beginning. We are the end. We are the I am. This was absolutely, positively everything I am. It was nothing. It was everything. It was sound, it wasn't. It was space, it wasn't. It was just everything. It was, and it is, who we really are. And I got it. And as soon as that happened, I'm like, this is where I'm going to stay forever. I can see this. And you can't understand it if you haven't had the experience. Like, why would you want to stay there? It was amazing. You can't explain it. As soon as I reached that apex, they said, somebody said, you're going back. I go, what? And then they started sending me back. I wasn't done. They said, you're not done, you're going back. Now you're supposed to have choice. And I don't know, I don't think I had a whole lot of choice with this, because they said, you'll be back, but not now. And I go, well, how are you even going to find me? Because I don't even know where I am. You know, there's this whole universe. Can you imagine being out in the, you know, out in the space shuttle? And how are you going to find your little body in a bed in France? You know, it's like that big. They did it. They sucked me. Whoever they are. I'm still a little angry, even though we're not supposed to have, you know, but I forgive them. But they got me into that little tiny hole, you know, that little tiny thing down there. And the interesting thing, and then when it happened, I go, oh, this is great, now everybody will believe me. And what were they going to believe? There's gravity. And I go, well, they'll know, because when I tell them there was no gravity there, they'll believe me. It's like, right. As soon as I got to a certain plane, gravity actually pulled me in. Now, do you feel the gravity? Not consciously. You have no idea how heavy this is. I'm really proud of all of you because it's really hard, first of all, breathing with this gravity that's pushing on us. And then we can move, and then if you do anything else, it's like a miracle. Well, that's what it was like. It was like gravity. So I'm in bed. Now I'm in bed. I'm freezing. I don't know what happened. I just had this profound experience, and now I have this gravity on top of me, and I can't breathe. I can't move, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And eventually I was able to take a breath, much to my surprise. And then I was able to start moving a finger, which I really didn't think I could move a finger. And I did, and then I started moving. And then I got hysterical and started waking up all my sisters and going, you're not going to believe this, because what just happened? Well, that was really nice. And so I woke up the whole house. It's now it probably was just a few minutes after we had just sort of settled in. And woke up my parents, and my father goes, Carol, I've been driving all night. I'm really tired. I'm cold. We'll talk about this in the morning. So I stopped talking about it. And in the morning, I woke up, was hysterical again, and just insisted, you know, you're not going to believe what just happened. Mom, I met your dad. Well, I had a mission. They implanted a mission in me when I came back. So now I have this mission, and I said, I'm supposed to do something. God sent me back, Jesus sent me back because I'm supposed to do something. And I go, what are you supposed to do? Well, we're supposed to go back to the Vatican. I'm supposed to see the Pope, and I have a message from God. Yeah, so this went over really well. So I kept insisting, no, we have to go. I'm told we have to do this. And I was really serious because they implanted a mission for me to go to the Pope, and I had something to tell him. And I really didn't get that we're not going to do it. No, I didn't understand why we weren't. Well, they made me go see our minister, who I love, Chaplain Evans, who's a sweetheart. He was coming every Sunday for dinner. And I told Chaplain Evans, I said, Chaplain Evans, you got to help me here. You know, I just had this experience. I died, I went to heaven, and all this stuff. And they sent me back. They said I couldn't stay because I have to go see the Pope. I have to go see the Pope. God wants me to tell him something. He was really very understanding and said, do you know what insanity is? He said, you have lost your mind. And he said, if you continue to talk, we're going to put you in what they call is an institution. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it didn't sound good. So I stopped talking about this. And then what I did do is I wrote a letter, and I wrote my mission just so that in case I would forget as I got older. And I sealed the letter to myself in foil, because that's what we had in 1963. And outside, along one of the street walls, I have the loose rock, and I put the foil in the rock, and I said, okay, I'll be back, and I don't even have to bother anybody. I'll just come back and get my... And then I had a little diary, and I wrote down, okay, this is X marks the spot. There's a special, I called it the agenda. That was my agendas in there, and I would come back. And that's the end of the story. I forgot about it. For a while I wanted to be a nun. I said, Mom, I just don't want to talk to anybody. All I want to do is be with God. I just want to be with God. So maybe you can bring me to a place where the nuns are, and I could just be a nun and not talk to anybody and just pray to God or be with God. That wasn't happening. So I forgot about it. And then I got caught up in life, and I knew certain things, but I had sort of forgotten. And then my mother called me when I was in my 20s, I guess, when Betty Eady wrote her book, Into the Light. I don't know if any of you read that. And she said, Carol, my book club just read a book, and it was a story just like yours. This woman dies, and she goes to, only hers really happened. I go, thanks, Mom. And to this day, my mother, God bless her, she doesn't get it. But it was pretty scary, for her. I'll tell you what my mission was, and I have since written to the Pope a few times, and actually Pope Francis, I think, is the closest Pope. This was for Pope John. I think he's pretty much on task with what I had to say. The mission was, go to the Pope and give him this edict. Tell him to melt down his golden altars and feed his people. So that was my mission at 12 that freaked everybody out. So that's sort of my story. And what I really, do I have a couple more minutes, John?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay, what I'd like to say is that's my story, and that's nice, it's nice to hear the story. But what I'm finding recently is I'm waking up, I wake up between midnight and 3, and I keep feeling my heart, that voice that made me come back is sort of, I don't know if it's a voice, it's a knowing that I'm supposed to do something. And what I've been led to do lately is to remind all of you to allow anyone who cares. I'm not allowed to, here, I'll show you my little book. This is really funny, actually. This is what I'm not supposed to do. If they don't want a master, why are you bothering them? So I'm not allowed to bother anybody. So if I'm bothering you, you need to leave right now. I'm going to tell you some things that I did get from my near-death experience. And one is, there's 3 things that I'd like to remind you. First of all, that you really all are perfect, and that every single thing that happens. It's not happening. That you experience in your life isn't a coincidence, and it's not an accident. It's a perfect moment that you're supposed to experience. So if you took your life and it was a big puzzle, and every single piece was something that happened to you, whether it's a rear ender, or you got really sick, or somebody died, or the good stuff. You went to Redwood Park and hugged a tree. I don't know. It's just every single thing. And you do have choice. But understand, within the choice, because it's not that easy, as I was telling you, don't understand it, everything is perfect. At the end of your life, you have, and I saw it over there, every single thing that happened to me was not a coincidence, was not an accident, was perfect, and it was supposed to happen. So how does that work for you now? Well, you don't have to worry about anything. All you can do is just show up and watch and take it as an adventure and be fascinated by everything that's happening. Instead of getting pissed off at something, go, whoa, this is part of it? And you go, yeah, that's really part of it. And it makes it really easy when that lady in the grocery store that's, going through her coins and you're in a rush and you're going, oh my God, please hurry up. No. You're supposed to be there. Look around. Yeah. Maybe you're supposed, there's something there for you. And if you weren't in a rush, and I don't know why you're in a rush anyway, just enjoy. So it's to enjoy every moment. I give you permission. If you want, I can even write you a note. Giving you permission to get this one, because it is huge. It's huge. Which brings me to judgment. Okay? The judgment part, which I was saying. And you don't have to believe this. I don't really care if you believe it or not. This is my truth, and you're going to find out it's a truth someday, whether you want to or not. We are the only judges of everything that we've ever experienced, or that comes into our path. We are the judge, and you get that. Now, when you have your life review, you're going to have to feel that stuff again. So you may want to think a few times before you start doing something. And that's very helpful. That helps me a lot. And sometimes, recently I said something, a little catty about something. I go, I know I'm going to have to look at this again, but I can handle that. It was worth it. It was really fun. It was worth it. So just think about it. Think about if you're gonna have to look at this again, do you really want it to play out this way? So that's a little helpful, right? A little helpful, little tidbit there. Oh, this is nice. Remember I said we're, the cosmic consciousness of God, source, I am, whatever it is. We really are all connected. We really are. If we could put on special glasses and see, I think some people describe it as a string that runs through everything, or, but we really are connected. I mean, we're each individual, yes, because we want to be that. It's fun, you have your own personality. But we also are connected. So when you see that girl holding the sign, I have 3 kids, help me please, we know her. You can choose what you want to do, but the most important thing is just to send her a little love note. I love you. You're part of me. We're part of this whole universe. I get it. We're all connected. So I'm not quite resonating with all you, but you get the idea. Some of you people say it better than me, but we are all connected. Okay, but that's more than 3. We are all part of the God consciousness. Okay, each and every moment of our life is perfect. I said that. It will all make sense, yes, when we get our aha moment on the other side. There are no moments, no missing. Oh, there's no extra moments. Oh yeah, there's no extra and there's no missing. As Nani would say, my Nani, no extra, no missing. Okay, and finally, how do we live in the moment and understand what's going on? What I've been doing for the last 3 months, and it's really helpful, is I've been dividing things up. Okay, it's either in my mind's heart or in my heart, my human mind, that's it. Or it's in my heart mind, because the heart does have a mind. And if I'm feeling, and I know if my ego's getting in the way, it's up here. I don't really want to be there anymore. I don't want to be there anymore. It used to be fun, but it's not anymore for me. I don't want to be there. If I'm judging, it's up here. Okay, so if you're judging, you're up there. If I'm fearful, it's coming from this. And if I want to control, it's coming from this. The alter, the yang to the yin or whatever, so the ego would be, if it's coming from here, I'm missing out that we're all connected. That really, I want to be on the same team and cheering for that other person. Don't let my ego get in the way. The judgment here is the forgiveness part. So if I'm forgiving, it's coming from here. Got it? Okay, no, yes, a little bit, okay. If I'm fearful, and you all heard this, you can't be in fear and in love at the same time. Okay, it's really true. If you're in fear, stop and ground yourself and bring in the light and touch base with that love. Because you don't want to let that in you. That's going to be a block. You don't want that block. The whole point is to become more light, so we can have more fun. And the control, that's a hard one, because I'm very controlling. Anybody controlling? They like to control a little bit. Yeah, but the control is to let go. You've heard let go, let God, but it really is true. I'm on autopilot lately. I'm not going to push myself on anybody, and I'm not going to try to go, if they don't want to know, I'm not going to tell them. I'm on autopilot, and that's really working out nice for me. I've been doing this for about 3 months now, and I'm having the best 3 months of my life, really, and I have a great life. So that's what I'm offering to you, some little bits of tidbits. You take it or leave it. You don't know me from Diddley Squat, so who's this lady telling us? But I'm just telling you, I really have an amazing life. It's working. It's working because I'm letting go. I'm letting go of all those blocks that I was raised with as a little child, and I'm letting go. That doesn't work, so I don't have to use that. And when I find myself going here, I go, do I really want to be up here? Sometimes it's almost worth it to have the human experience, and okay, I know I'm going to have to pay for that later, but I'll go there. But most of the times, it's here. It's here. And this works really, really well. And I think I should probably come up with something really beautiful and profound to end it with, but guess what? Let me see. What am I going to teach you? Okay. I'll read you something that came to me. It's not profound, but it's sweet. May the voice through which I am speak to you, and may it carry with it all the light, all the frequencies, all the codes, and all the vibrations. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. That was great. Excuse me. She came all the way from Florida, and she's going back tomorrow morning. So, thank you. Let's just thank her one more time. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. So we'll have a timeout. We'll have a break. There's coffee and tea back there. There's cold drinks in the cooler, and a couple people brought snacks. Thank you very much.